The next character you're gonna find is Kaine, and she's around the Airy, the Airy,
Yeah.
and boy, does she have a fan base online. I like her character as well. Tell me everything you know about Kaine.
Dude, I like in terms of the main characters. I like all the main characters. It's tough to really say any of them are bad. Kaine, how much detail do you want to go into?
As much as you can.
Okay.
There's so I'm gonna be like breaking all these up into little bits. So it's this would be
Okay.
the segment that we talk about Kaine.
Kaine. Kaine is interesting because when you first find her, she is battling a big lizard named Hook.
Mhm.
And Kaine has a very particular peculiar outfit on. She dresses kind of impractically. She as Grimoire Weiss would say, she looks like a hussy.
He says that many times. Yes.
Which is always cracks me up whenever he comments
Yeah.
on her. He
Yeah.
always comments on how she looks like she's fighting in her underwear, which is so funny.
Well, and Nier says that when he first meets her. He says, "Why is she in her underwear?"
Yeah. It's that self-aware. The game's that self-aware that they know that her design is kind of dumb. So
Do you think that there was pressure from the studio to make a character like that?
I don't know. I think it's interesting whenever you learn the context of the character, because then it kind of again turns it up on its head. If you've ever ever played Nier and you don't really know the context of the story, and you ever I don't know, jerked off to Kaine, we're gonna make it really awkward for you in a minute.
And that's why I think they got pressure to make a character like that, and then they're like, "Let's fuck over everybody who forced us to do that."
Exactly. So Kaine, a little bit of backstory. Kaine grew up with her grandmother, living outside of the village of Airy. They were kind of outsiders. Her grandmother's name was it's either Carly or Curly. It depends on the version, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna call her Carly. Carly raised her outside of the village because the village didn't accept Kaine for various reasons. And we'll get into that in a minute. And they taught her to be a strong, independent character, whatever. And Hook, this giant lizard shade, would go on to kill her grandmother. So that's kind of like where you're picking up with the story with Kaine. Kaine's kind of has this vendetta against Hook, and that's where the fight begins there. Do you want to go into why Kaine is not accepted?
Of course.
So there's two reasons, and they're both kind of like side by side. The first one, which is more obvious when you're playing the game, is that Kaine is part shade. She has a shade living inside of her. His name's Tyran. So there's various moments. That's how she can use magic, and that's kind of like where she gets her powers. There's various moments within the game where she'll kind of have that power. She might become overpowered and stuff like that. And there's endings to do with Tyran, but so that's sort of the first reason why she's she's not accepted. She's half of like what these people fear. Also, she's a hermaphrodite.
Yeah, which I had no idea about. The game does. I mean, the game has hints about it, but honestly, I don't think most people would pick up on it unless they knew.
No.
Like you told me, and I had no clue. And then I read online, they're like, "Yeah, they tell you. They say, why are you acting like a guy? We know what you really are." And I'm like, that could mean a million things. That doesn't specifically mean that. That could easily mean the shade part, like you whatever.
Exactly.
So like I didn't pick up on that at all. But in like reading it and understanding the game a little better, it makes a lot of sense. It's just I am impressed that. And nowadays, with all the virtue signaling and all the strive to be diverse, it was so impressive to see that they added this character and didn't even tell you that they were different.
Oh, exactly. If this were a game by, which we'll get to another character that has diversity as well. If this was a game by BioWare, they would have marketed that shit out of that.
Yes.
And they did not do that. I mean, you could easily skip that in this game. But I think it's important because it makes her character design make more sense. She wants to show off the more feminine qualities of herself. So that's kind of why she dresses in her underwear.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I still get the impression it was done for marketing purposes, like her character originally,
Yeah,
and he just kind of like he said like his style was to work backwards. He
yeah.
he took that as like, okay, our end goal is that we have to have a girl with like in her underwear fighting. Okay,
So how do we do that?
how do we do that in my style? And then he did all this, which is genius. It's
Yeah.
so funny to see him like turn
Um,
it on. But he made like a legitimately great character. Kaine is beloved in the community, and
oh,
not just for her looks.
Kaine's great. Kaine's, I mean, she's when you first find her, she's once again just based on the design, she looks very, I don't know, I guess slutty, and maybe you would think she's like a bimbo, slutty girl character or something. No, Kaine's brash and smart, and she's like a survivalist, and
Mean.
Kaine's awesome. Yeah, mean.
She says,
Kaine,
and her interactions with Grimoire Vice are pretty legendary.
Oh yeah, they're the best. Those two go back and forth like crazy.
Because he calls her hussy and she calls him a magazine.
Yeah, yeah, they're always well, dude. In the original version, there's a part in the game with that what I'm talking about, where she just goes to fuck off on Vice, and the original English release, the opening of the game's like whenever like the Square Enix logo pops up, it starts with that. It starts with her being like, "Vice, you dumbass!" Blah 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 blah. It starts like that's the first dialogue you hear when you start up the game.
Oh
And it kind of sets the tone, and I really like that. I kind of sad that they don't have that in Replicant, but Kaine's a great character.